Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Diversity in Filmmaking panel as part of the Milwaukee Short Film Festival. My name is Michael Viers. My pronouns are he, him, and I am moderating this panel today with our fantastic group of panelists. Also joining us to chime in his thoughts, we have Ross Bigley, the founder of the Milwaukee Short Film Festival. And as I said, topic today is diversity in filmmaking. So before we begin on the topic, I do want to introduce both of our wonderful panelists. I'll have them introduce themselves. Amber, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Amber Rose McNeill. I am the volunteer festival director and lead programmer for the Milwaukee Illuminate Film Festival, or MIF for short. I'm also a filmmaker, an intimacy coordinator, and an educator.
My name's Sammy Aumend. I've been helping Ross out with the Milwaukee Short Film Festival. I'm also an actor, and I do local theater here and do commercial work and film work as well. And also, I'm a director of IT. So,
All right. So, as I said a couple times, our topic at hand is diversity in filmmaking. And off camera, Ross and I were having a little discussion about how it is the year 2025. It feels like at this point in time, we shouldn't be having these discussions, but we are. And if I can give a little side tangent for just a moment, for those of you who know me, I am a big fan of Charles Schulz's comic, The Peanuts. And my beautiful and talented wife Amanda had recently told me a story about when the character of Franklin, who is the only black character in the world of Peanuts, was first introduced. A mother and her child had seen the cartoon. They are both people of color and bawled, seeing their own representation on camera. And this was the 1960s. And the fact that we have not progressed as much since then as we would that I would like is kind of telling. So let's open up this conversation by saying why in 2025 is this more important than ever that we show diversity in the world of film and film culture?
Yeah, diversity is, I don't want to say my shtick, my MO, as when we were having a conversation before, Michael said. Yeah, diversity is really my MO in a lot of, well, pretty much everything that I do, but particularly when it comes to myth. We specifically screen the work of marginalized artists and filmmakers whose work is not equally represented in film and television. And that goes all the way from big budget productions all the way down to like really tiny, like three-person crew, micro budget films. We've come a bit of the way, but I feel like not I feel like I see and I know that we have so far to go because there'll be a little bit of progress and then it'll stagnate and that'll be good enough for now. And I think it's really important that we keep talking about it and that we keep programming and hiring and casting and teaching and talking about diversity. So I think MIF is a really important film festival. I also think that Voices Heard is really important as well. Most film festivals do not they cater to kind of like mainstream main market of whatever genre. So yeah, it's an important MO, I guess.
look at how the political spectrum is right now. When they're trying to remove things like Black history, museums and stuff like that. I mean, it shows that people, there are still people out there that don't understand why this stuff is important, and the ability to, like, when they say DEI, it's like, oh, we don't want to be hiring for that. It DEI has nothing to do with the color of your skin, or it's also the ability to be having, if you're also disabled or anything like that, right? And people don't understand. They automatically go to the color of a person's skin to be of value. Like, you have no value because of that. That you are not. You just got hired because of the color of your skin. No, that is not it. And people, I mean, I can go on a straight rant on all this stuff, but I think people need to understand and read why this is happening. And then to have an administration that values less of other people, whether it be the color of their skin, their orientation, uh, their sexual makeup or anything what they have to do. They don't value what a person is, just themselves, their talent, their ability to do things that is uh makes of what a person is, not what they look like or anything like that. And I think that is the crux of everything. That's why we need to do it 2025. We'll probably need to do it in 2028 because people do not want to, you know, go there. They're like, yeah, nothing's wrong. Nothing's happening. No, you still have to fight day in and day out to be recognized who you are, and I think that's why we do that. I mean, Charles Schultz, when you're saying that, I read that article, that piece with Peanuts. Think how, just to have one character on a comic strip that blew people's mind away, and it's like it, and it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. So I think it's going to take a while. It's always going to take a while because the minute you get rid of racism and bigotry, it's always going to be here. That's my thought. Sorry if I went too long, but
My feeling is that the world is changing. It's
yeah,
becoming less white. And you should represent what the world is. It comes to a point sometimes when I get so many films a year, hundreds, and if I see a film with an all-white cast, it seems odd to me now because I don't live in that world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just seems kind of foreign, like I'm watching an old TV show from 50 years ago. That's what it kind of feels like right now to me when I see something like that that's said to me. The world is changing regardless of how much pushback they get.
Well,
And keeping at least the history of this stuff alive,
right.
educates people. Without it, they become less educated. That's just my thought.
Yeah. And if I can interject for a second, what I think is so important about it, and I'm going to circle back to Amber, your wonderful film festival, Milwaukee Illuminate Film Festival, is once upon a time, and maybe this is just me putting rose-tinted glasses on things, and I'm sure it is to an extent, it didn't feel as punk rock as it does now to aggressively support diversity. But considering that something as simple as have a gay couple existing in a film or having a person of color in a film is now viewed by a certain portion of people as the film quote unquote being woke, and then it's a political message that now it feels like I said, it's become very punk to aggressively support diversity in a way that it hasn't felt as much in the past. And that is why, for myself as an ally, I have aggressively done everything I can to support people with the message like Amber. And it's, like I said, it's become way more of a political statement than it had in the past, and it could just be now that there's the people who are anti-diversity are just far more fucking vocal about it than they used to be.
And speaking of woke, I mean, and I think that what is happening is that everything that is being made that should be normal is being considered woke, right? Because you didn't, what normal back then was Mickey Rooney playing an Asian guy, right? Or David Carradine playing Bruce Lee in a Kung Fu TV series. Yeah. There was not a lot of Asian representation. Even now, I think, if you see a lot of movies,
you get cast in roles as like doctors and
Oh yes, yeah, as a Filipino,
stereotype
that's
Asian
right.
role.
I mean, I don't mind it because it's paying, something like,
Yeah.
but yeah, right. But and that's the thing. But I wouldn't mind getting a lead on something, right? Because there is not a lot of lead Asian actors, right? Because it's going to be, even unless it's a fully Asian film, right? But you'll never get uh Sammy Liao, I think, or any of the other um popular Asian actors are now. They're gonna, unless it's Shang-Chi, or like, again, it's because it's based on an Asian a film. But if it's something that's going to be uh, Pride and Prejudice, you're never going to get the Asian actor as the main lead in that one, right? I understand there's always a mix of having other actors play in that. So it's either going to be an all Asian actors or all Black actors or all Latino actors, and anything like that. But it's, for some reason, you can't you don't see a lot of that mix where those people that are, I'm sorry, not those people, just saying that um minorities having the lead based, with leading characters that are white, right? So it's, I think, and that's the thing, and in having your synopsis of being woke, that's not being woke. That's just normal, because
Yeah.
we walk around with friends. Everybody's a lead actor, literally, because when you're walking, everybody is talking to everybody without any hesitation of, hey, you can't talk, you're not white enough yet, let me, or you're the funny Asian guy, you talk first, but you don't. We don't see that in life, but we try to emote that on film, which is weird, because that's, I guess that's my answer to your question. So
Well, and I think about like TV. I'm not super familiar with this show. I'm just familiar with its reputation. Like,
Yep.
I know a lot of people who are a big fan of the TV show Bridgerton, and
Yep.
part of that is because of their casting choices, where they will cast people from various ethnicities
Right.
in different parts, and people respond well to that. But it's strange to me that to this day that is still an anomaly. It
Right.
doesn't happen as much as it can, which leads me to a question that I had been thinking about as we were discussing this. So, when it comes to casting, I was trying to think about this. Diversity casting. Um, when let me see, figure out the best way to write the best way to word this. This is something for young filmmakers out there. Someone who wants to try to be more diverse in their films. Should they be writing for diversity, which could easily lead to that of stereotypes, or should they just be casting for diversity? What does the panel think
I
about
have
this?
some experience in that, as someone who writes and directs his own stuff. To me, I don't really write for diversity. I cast for diversity more so than anything. Like Sammy played a hitman in my film, and then he played a nosy neighbor in another one. I wasn't thinking I need an. I'm going to make this an Asian hitman. No, I said I need a hitman. Sammy's an actor. I'm going to cast him in it. Then I got to know Sammy. It's like, hey, you want to be a nosy neighbor in another film? It's I try not to write for characters I know nothing about, or cultural backgrounds I know nothing about, but I cast actors from different backgrounds to play those parts, and I hope they bring their cultural background with them and make the role their own.
Yeah, I have quite a bit of experience with this as well. I think there are kind of like two main ways that you can go. One is just having like open casting, as in like not like you may have like specific details that you want, like age range, kind of like vibe, that kind of stuff, but like not, you know, not specifying an ethnicity when you're doing casting calls, because I started making films in LA. So I would do casting calls and have a lot of actors turn up. I found that that was a really great way to see like a big variety of actors, particularly if like there wasn't a specific need for a character to be a specific ethnicity. In saying that, I did cast a lot of cis white men because I make horror films, and they're quite violent, and I don't like being violent towards people of color in my films. I'm a queer filmmaker, so like that's kind of okay for me to make like queer horror films, but that's definitely one way that you can do it. Also, just like casting people you know, if you don't have that kind of big pool to put out a casting notice and do it that way. I think you can also write characters. I think if you don't have any experience with the cultures and the you know, communities that you're writing about, I think it's really important that you get somebody on as a consultant. You know, even if you're just kind of, it doesn't have to, you know, consultants in Hollywood, one thing, but, you know, somebody to talk to, somebody to run things by and say like, hey, is this starting to look like a bit weird? Is this playing like it would in reality? You know, it just to kind of like try to prevent stereotyping, because I do see a lot of people trying to write for diversity, but when they're like white middle class film school kids, it doesn't always play very well.
It
That's
doesn't.
yeah, that's not saying people in film still can't make amazing films with like diverse characters, but like I think you need to be, if you're not familiar, if you know, if that's not your community, you should be consulting with somebody, at least one person from that community, to kind of like check things.
If you don't cast people of color in your film these days, your film is not going to play very heavily in film festivals, because film festivals, for the most part, there's some out there in smaller towns, but for the most part, they're looking at stuff and goes, this doesn't look like today's world. Even though diversity is being chipped away at a government level, culturally, still, hopefully, this is going on where they're still saying, like, no, this doesn't represent real life right now.
I did really quick story is sometimes when you're casting, right, you don't think that you're gonna uh get that part, because I remember when I had a, a casting for Chicago PD, and they were looking for a 40-year-old Jewish delicatessen owner, you know, like, and I was like, um, that's not even me, but okay. So I auditioned and I got the part, and I was like, what is going on? Well, turns out they changed from delicatessen to a candy store owner. So again, so it you know, it could be based on that. So I think for coming actors or anything like that, just audition. Just audition for everything you can. I don't You don't care what it is, because it's the casting director is going to go, oh, let's try him out, you know, or something, because it's just the look, you know. I thought first of all, I thought it bombed the lines, right? It was small, and I thought, oh, that sucked, you know, I'm not getting this. But then I get a call back. You just do it, and I think sometimes it gets to that point where maybe, you know, some are going to start using uh more, you know, ethnicity and everything like that, just because some things change, you know, everything changes sometimes. So it's like, it's good. So
I think there's a lot of fantastic advice that was given in this little section here. Like you said, Sammy, to just go out there and try things. If you are the right person for the part, they will rework the part to match
yes,
what you are bringing to it. And then, Amber, what you were saying about for, especially young cis white hetero filmmakers to not run from the thought of diversity. And I've spoken to a lot of filmmakers who are very much like myself, cis white hetero, um, who are afraid to not necessarily like, I guess afraid might be the right word, where they don't want to come off as ingenuine. And I feel like it really comes down to your intent. If you are trying to comment on, say, the queer experience and you are a straight white person, yeah, you're not the person to tell that story. But that's not to say that you can't have a queer character or you can't have a black character. You just need to come at it from a place of respect. And as Amber, you said, to talk to people from that community, because then it's also a way for you to learn about that community and for you to educate yourself. And you shouldn't live in a bubble.
Yeah, like filmmaking is a really collaborative process, right? So like it's important not only to be consulting like when you're in the writing process, but also like when you have your actors cast to be collaborating with them and saying like, does this feel like authentic to you? Is there something that we should change? I'm a writer and director that's pretty specific about my lines, but like if I'm writing for a Black woman and the actor is like, this is not coming off authentic, then I'm going to listen to them because I want films to feel authentic, whatever I'm making. And I think that like collaboration and communication and consulting, I guess the three C's, be easy to remember. I think those are really important if you want to have like authentic, diverse filmmaking, and also just casting people of color and queer people and trans people, and the character is just doing what they're doing. The fact that they're a person of color, the fact that they're queer or trans, it's not their entire identity. Right. That's one way that you can avoid tokenization. Like they're just these people and they're living their lives and they're doing what the characters are doing, but their whole identity is not based on their ethnicity or their sexuality or their gender. Like I think that's also another good way to kind of, avoid tokenism and stereotypes.
I wanted to shift the focus ever so slightly, and this might be a question that's more specific for Amber and Ross having programmed film festivals. But Ross, I know you've always been an ally to supporting diversity, making sure that you have sections in your film festival that are meant to highlight those voices. And it's not to say you don't put those voices throughout the entire film festival, but I do appreciate that you try to with voices heard. And then Amber, obviously your entire film festival is based around diversity, where you specifically say it in your like on all of your promotions about what you stand for. My question for you guys was, when it comes to trying to program these films, what kind of pitfalls have you experienced trying to program these blocks or these film festivals that are, you have specifically said, are for diverse voices? Has there been any issues with that?
Well, Sammy's also on the Voices Heard committee with me.
Oh.
He's been on it for a couple of years. When I began, this is actually the 10th anniversary of Voices Heard. When I began it, there was a new base of filmmakers in this city that weren't being represented. Because there was a new school, I'll make this quick because we only have about 10 minutes, that's no longer around, sadly. It was AI, the Art Institute. Their filmmaking department was about 99% people of color. And when you look at something like UWM's film department, it was 99% white.
Yeah.
So, I mean, UWM also has close ties with Milwaukee Film. So a lot of those filmmakers were getting programmed at that time. And no one was really paying attention to AI. And I thought, there's filmmakers here people are ignoring. We need to see what they can do and show them. And I started
Sorry
Voices
about the noise.
Heard. And Sammy's been with Voices Heard for about 3 years. I mean, I do try to program as much diversity outside of Voices Heard as possible. I try to get some LGBTQ filmmakers in there and African American filmmakers that aren't local in there as well. So always trying to. It's kind of hard sometimes when you don't get a good selection of films a certain year. And it's like, well, there's less of this and I got more of this, you know?
I'd say sort of the biggest issue with that, if we're kind of ignoring all the people that don't read the rules and submit films who don't like meet the criteria, um,
A lot.
yeah, which is a lot. Um, the issue for me has been that like we get some wonderfully diverse films from like international films, and even like national and from Canada, but it's a lot harder when you're looking for like diverse local filmmaking, and which is not to say it's not happening. Maybe people just aren't submitting to festivals, but like that kind of was like the biggest issue for me with programming the last couple of years, is trying to make sure that we're representing like Wisconsin and even Illinois filmmakers, within that diversity.
Voice heard. I mean, it's a nice to get the diversity in filmmakers, right? So we try to get films that are being directed or also written uh by diverse people, minorities and stuff like that, so that we can have that little section that, hey, these were made by these filmmakers, and they're showing their talent, their ability to write stories, to direct, to everything. And and when you watch the films, it's not like it's trying to force the diversity. It's just, no, it's just like we are we are here. We are trying to show you what we have. And it's not like, you know, trying to uh have a lot of uh say, hey, this is much better than this or much better than, no, it's just we want to create. We want to create films that are diverse, that people can also understand in multiple, ethnicity and everything like that. And I think that's what does stand for Voices Heard. And I think that's what's nice about this, that we can have an area that we can show, hey, everybody's sending here, but this is just for this. This is just for people that consent to this particular uh demographic and everything like that, so that you can maybe you're thinking, hey, I get, sometimes I got, denied because there were so many films somewhere else or whatever, but we can have this ability to have another area, another section that they can show their talent, right, between the directors, writers, actors, anything like that. So I think that's what's nice about having Voices Heard.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's one of our strongest years this year.
Yeah.
We have had occasions where white filmmakers, because our Voices Heard is a lower entrance fee, try to get in. And I said, well, you're not a filmmaker of color. I said, well, I have German heritage. And it's like, that's not the same thing. It's filmmakers of color.
And would you say that, like, I can speak to Miff because I've been part of Miff for since it started. But would you say that the turnout is good for these blocks that are celebrating diversity? Would you say that there are people out there who are hungry to see these films?
Oh, yeah. Personally, I think so because, since I've been in it and the amount of people that I've seen come to these, it's growing. So yes.
I think it can be like a little bit harder, particularly for like festivals, like new festivals in their first and second year. I think it can be a bit harder of a sell, because a lot of people are used to going and seeing like blocks full of like white filmmakers, even if it's not just like white people in the films. But yeah, I mean, I think people are hungry for it. I think people maybe just online streaming is such a big thing now that I think people aren't necessarily thinking about going out to film festivals, or they think a film festival is just for the people who made the films and were in the films. They don't realize that like film festivals are, particularly small ones, are like community events. So that's something that I'd like to put forth, is that like at film festivals, your local film festival, you should definitely go and support, because it's a community event. It's not just for filmmakers.
And that's the thing. These small events, they they're saying it's small, but the big actors that are out now started with small film. That's how they started. That's because they enjoyed it, right? And then they got cast for something else bigger than they expected. And I think having small film introduces actors and directors. Steven Spielberg, whatever. He started in his backyard or whatever, just filming and he wanted to showcase it, right? And having the ability to showcase I think that is what's the best thing about film festivals, showcasing talent. Yep.
Perfect. Well, as we're wrapping up here, I do want to mention that the Milwaukee Short Film Festival is coming up very shortly. Ross, Amber, if you guys want to promote the dates, events, times, where people can buy tickets,
They can buy tickets at the Avalon website directly. Each block is set up. The festival is September 5th through 7th. Amber gets the 7th. And 75 films all weekend.
Wow.
Get online, buy tickets. It's going to be a really fun weekend. Miff is basically taking over on the Sunday. We've got 2 amazing blocks with like local, national, international films. I'm really excited about the lineups for like between the 2 festivals. The whole 3 days, there's amazing programming. So I highly recommend getting on the Avalon Theatre website and grabbing your tickets.
Perfect. Well, then I think that's the best place to end. Once again, this has been the Diversity in Film and Filmmaking panel as part of the Milwaukee Short Film Festival. So, last thing I will say is if you're a young filmmaker, don't be afraid to cast outside of your bubble, your world of your purview, and get some diversity on your film and film sets, and not just on the camera too. Get some really talented people behind the camera.
Yes.
Go out there.
Sound, lighting. Yep.
Exactly. Go out there and watch some filmmakers that you may not have tuned into, and experience different parts of the world.